New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. This is Rockin the Love, and I am Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we're happy to have you with us today on this Wednesday, first Wednesday of September 2024, and we're looking forward to a great show today.
Wow. Remember when school didn't start until like the middle of September, like the first weekend? After Labor Day.
Right, like it would be starting like yesterday or today.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've already been in school for 5 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. I don't know how kids go to school when it's this hot. Like, it made sense when it started to cool down to go back to school. But, I don't know a lot of things and I'm not afraid to admit it. So there you have it. Anyway, yes, and it's September, which means there's only October and November until we get to December.
Yes, that's what that means. Isn't that exciting? Woo.
And then 2025.
Now that's sort of a milestone of some kind, it seems like.
It seems like it. It seems like it.
2001, Space Odyssey, all of that. And then 2025, that's a quarter century. And alas, that's not what we're here to talk about today.
It's not.
It's not.
But everyone should ponder life, right? And those are some of the things that one can ponder. Unless you have something better to ponder, let us in on that. So we are Rockin the Love, and we are a married couple, and we are in New Mexico right now. We haven't always been. We were in California, and then we were in California and New Mexico living apart. But at this very moment, we are living together, and so excited about that. It is very exciting. It's like being newlyweds because we hadn't lived together for like 2 years, just back and forth, and now it's like, like that nesting period, right? Where it's like, let's get this new, and we need new towels, and all those things.
It's a very expensive time of life.
I think he means expansive.
Expansive, that's what it is. It's really quite wonderful and fun, and we're enjoying it. And while we're enjoying it, we're inviting all of you to click on all our clicky spots, subscribe, like, enjoy everything that we're doing that helps us just get the word out. We appreciate that. Share it on your social media when you're off the show. And welcome to our friend Shay. It's good to see you.
Good to see you,
Thanks
Shay.
for being with us today.
Yes, thank you. Shay is an amazing healer and does a lot of remote work. So you can find her on Facebook and all over the place too. In fact, everywhere I go, Shay is. It doesn't matter where I go. I go to tune in to a service at Agape and I see Shay in the chat box. I go to Facebook and there's Shay. She's everywhere. So you can find her. I know you can. So how has your week been?
My week has been good. It's been really good. It's been somewhat relaxing in a certain kind of way. We had our sister come and staying with us for a few days. And so that's been really nice. We had a day off because of the holiday, which we turned into a day on doing a big community picnic, which was super fun. and really enjoyable, and had a whole bunch of people come out for that. And we've picked up some free bookshelves today. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of fun stuff. And today we have a very fun show because we have a very fun person. If any of you know Heliberto Cano, you know that there is always a good time when he's around because that's just who he is. And what we're going to talk about today is positive thinking. The show is titled Keep a Positive Thought. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Heliberto is also a practitioner and a life coach, and he does so many things. So you'll get to hear about that in just a little bit. But I think before we do that, well, my week was good. I feel like I'm settling in. I'm just trying to settle in and really figure out what I'm doing, when, where, and how. Like I said, it's been fun, like organizing and getting our office straight and different things and all of that. And it's like, I'll be happy when the house is in a little bit better shape. And we're going to have our first guests in October.
So we have to pull it together a little more.
We have to hurry. We'll have our guests coming for the Balloon Festival here in New Mexico and to sing at the center and to visit. And so, I'm excited about all that. So my week was good. It was good. And
we've been eating a lot of home-cooked meals with the whole family. That's been kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good week.
I don't know about all of you out there, but there's just times in my life where I feel like I'm adulting. And I know that it looks like I should have mastered that art a long time ago. But it's like those moments where I go, oh, this is great. I like my life. This is perfect. All these, pillows match the couch. And instead of me having like a mismatch this and a that, and just trying to make things work, I feel like we get into like, I don't know, in a groove where we're creating things newly. And I like it. So that's my story.
All right. Well, I suggest you stick to it.
Okay.
All right.
So then it must be time for the good news. Yay. The good news. This is our segment where we talk about what's good in the world, because everybody knows that they can find plenty of things to complain and not talk about. So this is where we share just the good things that are going on that don't always make the news or the everyday papers. So tell me what you've got.
Well, what I've got is that over the last 100 years, the forests in Norway have tripled in size. Now, I thought that was really interesting since we're constantly talking about rainforests and how they're being destroyed and all of that. But in Norway, they've actually tripled the size of their forests, and they've done intentional planting and all kinds of things. But they have, they're able to capture a huge amount of CO2 now because of the forests. And they think some of it's been contributed to actually by global warming, so that they've had slightly longer summers, et cetera, which has allowed the growth to grow a little faster. But they release 47 million metric tons of CO2, and the trees absorbed about 18 million of those, so about a third or so. That's pretty good that they're able to do that. And of course, wherever there's forests, there's, the landscape is preserved and all kinds of things like that. So it makes it pretty cool. So yeah, more than that, in 100 years, they tripled the size. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, it's a good trajectory.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's great. That's great.
Thank you, Michael.
My story is about inmates training hard to adopt dogs in New Mexico.
In New Mexico?
And
wow. Well, just because it's local, I thought that was cool.
Well, that's why I wanted to do it, because, now this week I feel like a local, because I've been here for a couple of weeks. So It's a great story. It's about a no-kill animal shelter. Charity was invited to start an inmate dog training program, and they did. And the ongoing program has helped inmates to develop all kinds of skills and compassion, and to learn to comply with their rules. And their task is to socialize the dogs and teach basic obedience that'll get them adopted more easily, which I think is really cool. And so right now at this point, 8 inmates are caring for 4 dogs, and they've become so devoted to their mission that they held a fundraiser. The inmates held a fundraiser to help pay for the program's costs. And they said that, it was so surprising, but they wanted to hire a dog trainer, and it was a significant expense for such a small charity, but they were committed to really giving it a try into the program because they knew it was going to be a win-win opportunity. And then they were surprised when they received a check from the inmates themselves. And what they did was that the dog trainees asked the staff members to purchase items from Sam's Club and repackage them and sold them as toiletry kits to the inmates. And they advertised the program inside the prison, and they raised $350. And then they gave that to them, which covers the cost of the dog trainer for a couple of weeks. But they said that the inmates were really happy to help because they love seeing the dogs on the ground. And the program teaches them the boundaries of what's allowed, what's not allowed, like getting up on furniture and, basic commands like stay and fetch and sit and all that. And the inmates are learning grooming and dog first aid and how to potty train them and all of that. And during the week, the inmates work with the dogs to teach them all the skills. And they live together 24 hours a day, which has got to be therapeutic for them in and of itself. And then the dogs are taken outside 4 times a day to play and to pee and to do the stuff. And one of the inmates said, "I'm changed by the experience." And he said, "I believe these men will go home more prepared for the world by finally owning up to being responsible rather than careless with another life." Yeah. And so they're creating something super special with the program. And of the program, all of the dogs got adopted immediately except one. So that's the story.
All right. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool story.
It is a cool story. And I think, those kind of stories that we tell like that, I think where they're socializing also. I mean, I think the benefits they're talking about are fantastic. And the benefits that we're never going to know or hear about have to be even more amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's another one of those things where you take things that seem very disparate and you put them together and you collaborate together and you come out with something very valuable.
Right.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's our good news for the week. And even better news, ya llegó mi comadre. Myrna is here. Welcome, Myrna. So glad to have you. Bienvenidos. I put the word out that Heliberto was here, so we're getting all of the undercover listeners coming out.
And it looks like Brian's with us too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to get down to learning about this positive thinking and seeing what we can learn that we don't know. So stay tuned, and we will be right back here right after these new messages from New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Heffernan Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
We are back in action, Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we're really happy you're with us here on Rockin the Love. Our whole purpose is to talk about, really, it's about relationship, and what we've discovered and what we know is relationship extends everywhere, because our whole life is about relating to ourselves, to the world around us, to our particular intimate partners, to whoever it is. We're constantly relating. So that's what we're about. And that's why we're going to jump into this show today.
And I think even though Brian was commenting on our last section, I think this is part of our mission as well, to be the power of love in action. And think way outside of the box. I'm the person that says what box. So, there are no boundaries to love, especially.
That's right.
So thanks for that, Brian. Okay. So we're so excited to introduce our guest. He is a practitioner. He is a life coach. He is He has led the Spanish ministry at Unity Church. He is right now a practitioner at Merida, the center, and he's going to tell you more about himself. But welcome, Heliberto.
Hello, hello. Good morning, Reverend Gil and Robyn. Such an honor to be here today.
It's good to have you with us. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, positive thinking. We hear that a lot, right? And everybody's like, oh, yeah, just keep a positive thought, be positive. So, why don't you tell us like what that means to you and why it's important?
Well, I think this is important because based on my experiences, when I focus my mind, I get a result. So if I focus on feeling depressed, not seeing options, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a reality of my life. But if I focus myself on finding peace and just getting out of my mind and walk and look at a flower, suddenly I am in a completely different position. So we have the option to choose which thoughts we engage in. It is like when you're in your house and somebody knocks the door. You have the right to open that door and allow that person to interrupt you, or you just let it go unless you have an appointment. So I think thoughts are going to be bombarding our mind all the time, but we decide which thoughts, or at least in my case, I decide which thoughts come into my experience. So I believe it is important to guard that inner space because thoughts are very powerful. And I learned that from Ernest Holmes. I learned that from Joel Goldsmith. I learned that also from Eric Butterworth, and so on. So I used to be very negative, actually, and I built so much out of the negativity that I said, how much of this crap I want to keep accumulating, and I decided that it was time to let it go. And nowadays, it's really difficult for me to be negative. I always find a way to look at things from a different perspective. When I want to say something is not going in the way I like it, I don't go into building this whole negativity. I may not appreciate what is taking place, but I just take a breath and I just focus my mind in something else. Why? Because we're talking about delay. There is several laws involved in this. We have the law of uh, uh, cause and effect. Thoughts are things. And when we engage in a thought, we are going to create an effect. So what am I going to be feeding? I'm going to be feeding the experiences that I don't like, or I'm going to be feeding the experiences that I like. I think this should be very simple. If we focus our mind, life should be simple if we focus our mind on the things that we want. Right? We all have experienced the opposite, which is focusing our thoughts in the things that we don't want. And for labor, in effect, we're going to create what we don't want.
Right. And I want to go back, as you said, how much of this crap do I want to keep accumulating? And I would venture to say that we've all asked ourselves some of that at one point in our life, right? We've all asked ourselves, how much of this can we do, or why do we want to do it? You know, and so I think it's interesting. I mean, to talk about making the switch, right? Because it's one thing to go, we as students of science of mind, we thought, whatever, have taken classes and we've learned, change your thinking, change your life. And how does one really do that? How do you begin to really let go of the negative and live in the positive?
I learned from Dr. Dwyer. He says that suffering is also a way to enlightenment, meaning that there is a time in which I got tired of creating the things that I didn't like. And I was tired of fighting it and trying to use all my energy until a point in which I didn't have any more energy. So I said, if this is not working for me, there has to be something different that I should try. And at that moment, I began to look for other options. And I think that when we are ready to do a switch, the universe is ready to support me.
Right. And
Means
I
that
think,
somebody shows up, you get an email, um, suddenly you see something on TV, or a book shows up in your mind, whatever. Why? Because we are connected in one life, and this one life want to express individually as each one of us. So it takes for us just to look for another option, and those options are going to populate in our mind. Because remember, I truly believe that we live in three dimensions. We live in this physical world, but we live in the world of the mind, but we also live in the world that is spiritual, the world of uh, of uh, of God. So, in order for us to be able to reach this dimension of spirit, we need to have to stop doing what we are doing, use our mind, and then have a new mental equivalent, have a new desire. And when I put together my thought, which is electricity, which my new sentiment will come from my heart, which is a very powerful energy, I'm just going up into the realm of spirit where all the realities that are available in the universe are available to all of us.
yeah, but you hit on a really important part, the first step, which is acknowledging that that we have the power. When one can acknowledge that they have the power over their thoughts and in their life. I mean, I think that's the beginning in order to be able to move to the next step.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And Myrna said, I think because sometimes we want to be right, the righteous that could be stronger.
The righteousness could be stronger. So I think
But
sometimes our desire to be right overpowers our desire to feel good or to experience what we really should be experiencing, because we just want to prove that we're right. I can sort of relate to that, Myrna. I understand that. Something that came to me, Heliberto, was
yes,
I think another aspect of it for me has been moving in a direction of trusting the universe, trusting that
yes,
spirit is on my side. And I'll say that, you know, I had an experience and something came up, somebody was changing their position on something, and it was, you know, it was a very sudden thing, and I didn't really react. I just said, okay, I trust that this is all in order. And I took it very slowly and worked through it and came out the other side without a big deal. But had I been in a place of negativity, had I been in that place of not trusting that really the universe was working for my good somehow in this, even if in the moment I didn't see it, I would have been off in the weeds about, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have time. I can't fix this. Right?
yes, totally. I have the tons of examples in which I thought it was not going to be possible, but I'm going to share, for example, an example. Once my daughter invited me to come to Paris because she wanted me to go with her to walk through Sorbonne University. And the interesting thing was I was in Agape and I was taking classes on Thursdays, and the class would end at 10 p.m. and all the flights that goes into Europe, they leave before 9 p.m. So I talked to the people in the faculty, and I said, could it be possible to have this class online? So I can fly on Thursday or on Wednesday, and I do the class from Thursday and from Paris, and that way I get to be with my daughter. And they basically told me no. We cannot do that. We cannot make exceptions. This is you sign up for this when you said you were available. We cannot go and change this just because you need to be in Paris. Something told me within me you are going to be there, and I kept looking for flights, and I couldn't find anything that will get me to Paris at the right airport by 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Leaving on Friday, of course, because it was the only option that I had. So it was 5 days before I had to leave, and suddenly I was in my computer and I got this message: uh, cheap flights to Paris. It was a website that I didn't even know existed. And I went and I click in and I put the dates, and suddenly I find a flight leaving from LA at 6 in the morning, switching planes in Dallas that will take me to Paris by 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Wow.
I didn't I didn't force myself to be in Paris. I felt that I needed to be in Paris, and that was I never allowed negativity to fill in, even though the class told me you cannot miss the class, and I couldn't find the flight. And the interesting thing was that usually buying a ticket to internationally within 4 or 5 days is very expensive. And I was able to fly a round trip through London and the way back for about $480. 4 days before I got there. And then I called the hotel, and and the mother of my child told me, I don't think they have any more rooms, because when I called, they had the last room, which was a nice hotel 2 blocks away from the university. And I called the hotel, and I found the room, and I paid half of what she paid.
Well, yes, when there's a saying I used to do when I work with teenagers that is, keep a positive thought, because a positive thought cannot be denied. So
Exactly.
as long as we're holding that thought, it can't be denied on some level. And yeah, you really proved that.
Yeah. And knowing it's going to work out. I don't know how, but I'm going to just keep taking every step, see what happens.
Well,
I'm not
what
going
I,
down
what I,
that hole.
what I understand is the fact that we need to maintain our mind in the positive. Because if we allow doubt to get in, if we allow fear to get in, we are feeding what we don't want. And my understanding is, in the world of spirit, there is no effort. We just
Mm.
need to trust. And when we are in the state of peace and we trust that this is already done in the one mind, the only thing that could happen is that it will reveal in the one mind. Because the source for everything comes from this world of no form, which is the divine. And the divine is ready and willing to express, as long as we use the same language of the universe. And the language of the universe is thought plus feeling. And I think that is the reason why affirmative prayer works. That is the reason why the spiritual treatment works, because regardless where a person is, I can do a treatment from wherever I am, and that treatment works because it's done in the one mind, and the one mind is everywhere present. I think the difficulty is that we allow ourselves to be uh, to be consumed by all that energy, all that information that is out there, all the noise of the world, and it's very easy to get into that because we are bombarded with negativity all the time. That's why I think it is important to have a space for silence, and that's why I think it's important to have a solid spiritual practice.
Right.
This is not something that I was born with. This was something that I developed as I grew up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, in some ways I would almost argue that, but only in this sense, and that is, I think we are taught so many ways to be negative.
Yes.
Whatever we started with goes negative until we find out that we can do it a different way. I mean, I'm not so sure we don't start out positive, but it sure gets shifted because of all of the stuff that comes into us.
And it,
Go ahead.
and it doesn't mean that I don't have negative thoughts. of course, those negative thoughts are out there, and I'm going to be listening to them. But at least today, I choose to observe them, and I realize that I have the choice to either accept them or whether to reject them and choose something else. Just by taking a breath, we can make this the pause, and as soon as we pause, the mind automatically goes into something else. But of course, I remember growing when I was in my late 20s and early 30s. I was working in corporate America, and there was so much pressure, and there was so much expected that I had nightmares that next day I was not going to be able to fulfill everything that I needed to do, and I would just roll around my bed and thinking, "What am I going to do?" But at that point, I was just trusting that it was all my own human force, but it's not that. Uh, what I learned is that as we grow in life, as we allow ourselves to understand who we are, little by little we build this trust. Little by little, we allow this understanding of a spirit to permeate our lives. But it takes time. I remember when I went. This all began when I used to go to hear the talks of Eric Butterworth in Unity at the Lincoln Center in the 80s. I remember I couldn't understand much of what he said. I used to buy the tape and listen it to it 3 times because I was learning English at the same time. But it was interesting that I made I gave myself the effort to buy the tape and listen to the tape. I mean, I don't have those anymore because I have moved so many times that I don't even know where they could be. But it was interesting that I couldn't understand everything that he said, but at the beginning, of course, but I felt welcome every time I went.
Yeah.
And that to me was important, because we can go to any other place and people don't go out of their way to make you feel welcome. And that was what I felt when I went to Unity, and that changed my mind. That was when I began to experience what New Thought is, and I began to read the Daily Word, which is a very simple reading that enables us to focus on something positive. But you don't read anything negative on that little booklet, the Daily Word.
Right.
So
Right. I think what you're touching on though is really important because we all know people who are invested in being who they are totally, and sometimes that's the negative person or the person that doesn't necessarily always open the space for change. And I think it really, having a place that's welcoming and that you can keep coming back to and keep getting fed there like that. And I think for me, the other another part of this that's super important in the keeping a positive thought is being willing to surrender, which you've touched on, and trusting that there's something bigger happening, but just being willing to surrender and not be right or not look right or not have it look the way it's always looked, because there's so much safety sometimes in who we are and how we project ourselves.
So much perceived safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
totally, totally. One of the reasons why I didn't do a show earlier compared to when I was talking at the beginning, when we were off the air, was the fact that I was paranoid of what people are going to think that I'm going to become over and talk about these things. But nowadays, I don't allow those thoughts to cross my mind, because they have the right to think whatever they want anyway. Whether I do it or I don't do it, they are going to be thinking anyway, and they have an opinion about me. And
right,
I'm not here to please anyone. If somebody doesn't like what I do, it's okay. They have the right to reject it.
right,
But at least I don't allow those thoughts to prevent me from creating a show and from discussing these topics that I enjoy discussing.
right. I want to share a quote from Maria Robinson that says, "Nobody can go back and start a new beginning. Start today and make a new ending."
Mm.
Totally.
Yeah.
It never is, I saw something that Ernest Holmes also said. I think I have it here in the private chat. Um, and that has to do is say we are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream, which I think is a very positive message.
Mhm.
Somehow we live in this world in which we think that age is a limitation. And I'm glad I'm in this new thought movement because I used to think that way. I remember when I was young, I used to see a person that was 60 years old, and I would say, "Oh my God, that person is old." And nowadays that I'm going to be 64, I look at myself in the mirror and I said, "Where was that thought in my mind? I don't even accept it at this point." But of course, I had a very good reference. Uh, I remember when I went to school in New York City, there was a lady, and I was what, 24, 25. She was 63, and her name is Rose Dan. She became my adopted grandma in New York City. But my first thought that I came to my mind when I saw her in class was, what is she doing here? She should be taking care of the grandkids. But that's such a limited negative thought. And I got to meet her, and I we had a group study, and it was it was a geology class, which is not an easy class. And she was her husband had died, and she was completing her degree on sociology because she wanted to have a show, and she had a show in the radio, but she wanted to expand her influence, how to help seniors to be positive and to be active and to enjoy life. And as I got to meet this person, I was marveled by this, the brilliance and the and how young she was in her mind.
Mm.
And she did her last show at age 84. It was a cabaret show with her boyfriend, and she had about 280 people in the audience one day before she died. But I think she had plans for the next 150 years. So it is interesting how uh, a person can live a life without thinking about age. And I think it's a good thing to embrace, because we are not the years we have anyway. I truly believe that at the soul level, we are eternal, so we have no age. So this is just one little uh, spot, a little point in this eternal life that we are living. So regardless at which stage of our life we are, whether we are 20, 40, 60, or 80, there is always a new, um, there is something new that we could do. And there is always uh, another goal to set or a new dream to dream. So I think that gives me a lot of hope just to think that that is true.
I agree
Yes,
with you.
we agree. So, are there any downsides to positive thinking?
I think I think primarily come from people on the other side of the spectrum, the mirror, uh, from the point of view that I don't see anything wrong with being positive. For example, uh, my mom is 90. She's going to be 91. God bless her where she is, and I know she's going to let she's going to go at some point, and I've been preparing myself for that. But at this point, I'm just grateful that she's there, that she's present in our lives. That I can see her smiling every morning when she's having breakfast because she loves to eat. And as long as she eats, I think she's gonna last for a long, 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 long time. But I don't see, for example, her passing as a negative thing because I think there is a legacy and there is all this love that love never ends. So yeah, people can say, well, I'm not going to tell you anything because there is nothing that perturbs your mind. Of course, there is things that perturb my mind. But the difference between me today and me 20 years ago is that if I didn't like something, I could keep that thought in my mind for months. Now I don't do that.
Right now, you know how to get rid of it. Well, when I ask that question, I mean, I think for me, the answer, and you can weigh in on it too. But I mean, I think like the only thing that it might lead to is like, I think it depends where you live in it. If that makes any sense. Like sometimes if we're, positive thinking for some people can look like, yeah, I'm going to get that Maserati and I'm going to have that mansion and I'm going to get it, and could lead to disappointment, I mean,
Totally.
so it's, for me, I think, when we just go positive thinking, I think it's the balance. I mean, we've gone through classes and trainings and, heard numerous New Thought people speak to the metaphysics of the whole thing and blah, blah, blah. And it's not like we sit down and go, oh, I've got to get to, I mean, well, you may have, but I was going to go, I've got to get to Paris by the end of the week. But you know what I mean? And really have that be the norm, so I think just sometimes, I mean, it could lead to disappointment like that. What do you think?
I think it's more about, I don't know how to say this exactly, but it's almost like, well, some people use that positive thinking concept. It becomes their cover for what's really going on inside. So
Okay.
they haven't really addressed the negative thoughts because they're all still there, but they're speaking as if, and at some level we all do that to kind of move ourselves through things. But if we're really just trying to show someone else that we're positive, then we're not really being positive.
Right.
I'm talking about the relationship
But
with
we're not
myself.
really embracing this for us, that we're, all that.
And I think similar to what you said is that Shay says the downside to positive thinking is you cannot positive think yourself out of trauma. To try to do so is harmful in my experience. There's way more healing than changing your thoughts. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that.
Yeah, it's a concept. Like, what does that mean? Do I shift to my trauma is not non-existent and it was rainbows and unicorns, or do I shift to, I know there's something in this for me and I know that it's not meant to end my life here, so I'm going to walk through it, and that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But the other way to see it also is the fact that just because you have positive thinking doesn't mean that you achieve everything you want.
Right.
Meaning that I think we all have experiences in which we've been positive and we've been successful. And we also have experiences in which we were positive and we were not successful. I think the harm comes when we don't get what we want, is that we get stuck on the want and we don't accept the fact that perhaps this was not the best thing the universe had for you and there is something better waiting to unfold. So it is important to be open. I'm going to give you an example. Last year, I thought I was going to be doing a course to become a chocolatier because I own some chocolate cacao trees in Colombia, about 1,500. And I said, I'm going to learn how to transform these uh, cocoa beans into chocolate bars. And I did everything that I was expected to get into the program. And I said to Mirna, I'm going to be away for a year. I'm going to be doing this and doing that and so on. And at the last minute, I didn't pass. They had an exam that I couldn't understand. It was all logic, and I have not done that for ages. They didn't tell me what was this exam about, and I didn't pass. And of course, I was disappointed. But that was not a disappointment in which I was going to be sleeping in for the rest of my life. I said, well, if this is not what life wants for me, it's because life wants me to focus on something different. It doesn't mean that I cannot get somebody to do to transform the cocoa beans for me. That is going to get done. It just happened that I'm not going to be the one who's going to be doing it.
Right.
And
Right.
when we accept the fact that it's okay, not me being the person that's going to do it, then I can just continue with my life. I think it's good to accept what happens. I think the harm comes when we don't accept what life is trying to give us, because we're going to be fighting with life. This is what I wanted. This is what you want to give me. I accept whatever takes place in my reality today as the best option today.
Right. And I just want to share what Myrna said. Myrna says it's required to have balance. Sometimes the conversation of positive thinking creates expectancy that it's not okay to think negative. So then we hide emotions when crap happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that speaks to the same thing that both Shay and Brian are speaking to as well. You know, yeah, I think it, well, Shay said, the downside to positive thinking is you cannot be positive. You cannot positive think yourself. Oh, we already read that
We
one.
read
right?
that one. Yeah.
That's not the one I wanted. Oh, no, it was Brian. Brian responded and said, thanks, Shay. It's about changing who we're being, which becomes the foundation of the positive thoughts,
Right.
while owning our unmet preferences and unfulfilled expectations.
Right.
Whew. Wow.
Now, you guys have a lot of big words.
Yeah, no, but it's so true, and unfortunately we're out of time. And I mean, I think that what I'm gleaning from this conversation is that really the most important thing is to keep an attitude of positivity, and always be willing to be in that place and see that place, as opposed to, like, somehow positive thought like rolls into visualizing and things and seeing what you want, and so
And also there is this misperception that having positive thinking is all about having things,
right, exactly,
and it's not about that. Positive thinking has to do with wellness, with feeling complete, with
right,
being happy doing what I'm doing, with
right,
enjoying what I'm doing, with enjoying what I'm doing. And of course, when things don't happen in the way we want it, there is a time of reflection, and there is a time of acceptance, and there is and it is this acceptance and understanding that perhaps what I wanted is not what was best for me, but life is much wiser than my own choices.
right, right. And so I just want to leave you. I have a couple of quotes that I just get to share because it's my show. No, that go along with what I'm trying to say, though. I love this, that attitude is the little thing that makes a big difference. And I think, again, just being open to keeping that attitude and that thought of positivity. And, I hear it a lot, especially because we have kids with, even just how quick my mind wants to go to, no, you can't do that. No, 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 And if when I can just stay open and be like, oh, that's a good idea. Like we sat through a meeting this morning where they talked about our godson's goals of being a pro football player. Well, I don't know. I just tend to believe that he would have to get off the couch first. And that doesn't seem to be what he's doing. But then I think, not my place. Why don't I just nurture his vision? And then it doesn't matter what happens. You know what I mean? But so it's living into that attitude of being positive.
I would like to say something about no. I read a research, and it said that in the first 5 years of our lives, we received over 10,000 no's from the adults.
Right.
So negativity is not something that is inherent of the divine. It is something that we learn through our own experiences since we were children.
Right.
Yeah.
So the majority of the time, negativity is something that we have accepted as true based on our upbringing.
Right.
And I learned on my own that most of the negativity that I was holding on had nothing to do with me. So part of the healing is let go.
Letting go.
All that negativity that has accumulated since we were children. And that happens in the first 7 years. But
Yes.
the cleaning of all that, we need to be conscious and at least accept the fact that it was a learned behavior, and everything that is learned can be unlearned.
Yes.
But in no way, shape, or form I'm trying to claim that I'm 100% jingles and everything is fine all the time. No,
Right.
that's not the case. I just choose not to go down as often as I used to be, because all that information is in the subconscious mind anyway.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my last quote. So this is a quote by Betty White. So how could it be any better than that? It's your outlook on life that counts. If you take yourself lightly and don't take yourself too seriously, pretty soon you can find the humor in our everyday lives. And sometimes it can be a lifesaver.
Totally.
Betty. So that's, I think, the message for today is just, just check in on what you're taking out into the world, and, I've done experiments where you try not to say no for the whole day, and you say yes to everything. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can do it, but I think just the awareness will keep us moving forward in that way.
I like the last one that I shared from Ernest Holmes. He says there is a divine plan for life, trust in it, and allow it to unfold.
There you go.
And so it is. And so thank you so much, Heliberto, for joining us. Thank you to all of you out there. So good to see you, John and Brian and Shay and Myrna, and those of you that didn't speak up. We know you're there and we love you. So keep on rocking the love, everybody. Take that out into your week and let's rock the world.
And thank you, Michael Mangus.
Goes without saying. The God of technology. We love our producer. Thank you. Rock the love, everybody.